What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind-the-scenes stuff, arm yourselves, life stuff. We talked a lot about Halo in the Penitent Solidarity video, linked in the description and pinned comment, but I kept feeling like I was missing something about what made Halo so uplifting in this primal sense. Because you look back and you like some things, but you look back at Halo and you feel things and you still feel them. Perhaps more intensely today than you did then. The Halo themes still get me a bit emotional when I listen to them. They hit me in the heart. And that can't just be a consequence of doing the mythical well. Not just the action, not even just the mystical, but the mythical. There is something more here, I was thinking, and I'm missing it. But that's when it hit me. Halo is optimism. And interestingly enough, I think it's always been optimism, or still is optimism, even though it's dead right now, unfortunately. It was still trying to be optimism. And this is fascinating to me because I don't like overly or essentially inherently optimistic media very much. I have an overall negative outlook on the world, and it'll stay that way until I have reason to see otherwise. So it's interesting that Halo hit me on that optimistic level and still can make me feel optimistic. So let's think about two things in this video. How Halo delivers optimism, and then the sort of optimism it delivers. Once it clicks and you realize Halo is optimism embodied, it's hard to believe you ever missed it. I'm sure a lot of people played Halo, enjoy Halo, and from the very beginning they understood this game is optimism, or this series is optimism. But I missed it. It snuck that by me and made me happy without my consent. Now, he's Lyle Rath now. He used to be Lyle McDouchebag, and I think he was something else before that. One of my favorite YouTubers I don't watch very often, so smart while hiding behind the irony comedy millennial thing. His theory about why Halo was so popular and is so popular with so many people, so many different sorts of people, is you can engage with it on any level. If you just want to be big soldier man, saving the day, oorah Marines, perfectly valid and good at engaging you on that level. You want to get weird and hyper-specific and esoteric with the lore, it engages you on that level too. Or you want to get mystical, mythical, you can engage with it on a magic level. And that's the level last time I assigned Halo's punch to, that aspect that taps into our nature. And that is a part of it, but that's not... I think that's another vessel that holds why Halo punches so hard. It is the ideal vessel for optimism. On any level you engage with Halo, the message is the good guys will win, friendship conquers all, perseverance is rewarded, nobility is worth living for, and in a fight over protecting what matters to you, you win. Or you can win. Justice prevails. Goodness prevails. Now, on a day-to-day level, all those ideas are very pretty to me. That's the sort of life I wanted to live. That's the sort of world I want to live in. Unfortunately, that's not what life is, or the world is, or people are. And when presented with these prettier ideals, In other media, it's easy to write off. It's immediate to write off. So, how does Halo? I wrote my notes. It's like someone sticking a pill that is a positive outlook in cheese, which is good gameplay and a terrific narrative, a mythical narrative, to get a shitty old dog, which is you and me, to eat it. How did they manage to pull that off? Because I think it's, again, to some people, the optimism that is Halo will seem obvious, but I never felt, I mean, I felt the optimism, but I never thought about Halo as an optimistic series. And I don't know how I missed it. How? It's because Halo is gruesome and dark and not in like the DC universe sense, but in the people doing people things to people level. It's real, it's horrifying, doing eugenics shit, kidnapping children, and the Flash clones thing, and then killing the Flash clones. Ooh, that's grody. And then initially intending those Spartans to go out and kill human beings first, as in it was good fortune that the Spartans were deployed against an alien force threatening all of humanity, rather than taking something born awful and making them do awful things. The Spartan 3s, traumatized war orphans you pump full of hormones. They're grown adults by the age of 12 in combat. The Flood, you know, I think one of the failings with these good conquers evil narratives is they make good out to be this shining light that all one must do is cultivate to banish away the weak, ephemeral darkness. It's only scary until you have the light. No, in Halo, darkness is dark as shit. I didn't realize. Well, the Flood, the Flood infect biomass, people. They infect technology too. What I didn't realize was they infect space time itself. And even if you kill a Gravemind, if another Gravemind comes back, it's the same Gravemind, because even if you eliminated all the spores and annihilated that Gravemind totally, the Flood has infected reality itself. If it can exist, then it will exist as it was and as it will be. It's an evil, it's an annihilation that you cannot scourge. That's dread on a level you wouldn't expect from Halo at first. But this kind of thing is everywhere because evil and danger, darkness, whatever you want to call it, is not a weak little thing. In fact, it's not even really a surmountable thing. All the dread and horror in Halo is played straight, it's played realistically, it's played horrifyingly. Devolving humans, the Forerunners devolving humans. I know a lot of people. I have mixed feelings about it. In my head, there are two versions. In one version, the original version, Forerunners are humans, but in the now canon version, the Forerunners are a different species. They fucked up ancient humanity and they devolved them. And the Forerunners, oh my god. Holy shit, that entire race. Just an awful race. So realistic. So overwhelming. Overwhelmed only by the monument to all our sins. The inevitable punishment. I think it's easy to miss Halo's optimism because it is so grounded and cosmic with its evil. As in, there is nothing false about the terrible sides or elements of Halo. They all feel realistic. Even when you get to those ridiculous levels, you think, yeah, if that were possible, that's probably the way that would go, and it wouldn't be pretty. It gives evil in the world a fair, honest shake. And hyper complicated narratives are popular these days, and I think they should be. I think that's a good thing. I don't like this meme of going back to villains who are just bad to be bad. I like the cause and effect creating friction thing. That's wonderful. It's more true to life, and it does evil the justice it needs because things are that bad. So you see the way Halo does complicated and evil and horrifying, and you think, okay, this is not a narrative that is trying to push optimism on me. And pushing is the key here. The true to life evil and dread of existence is the vessel that makes Halo's optimism delivery effective. It sneaks past the that's false, idealistic bullshit censors because it passes all the, yeah, this is the way things are, checks. And now that Halo has slipped its optimism past your defenses, what sort of optimism is it giving you? As with everything Halo, I think it's tapping into basic human feelings that are potent. An example. Nah, I'd win. Human beings are fascinating. Even when you've had near-death experiences or life-alteringly bad events, you might have your trauma, you will be all sorts of fucked up for the rest of your life, but you'll go on living with the assumption you could do this. You could survive and win and get what you want. And I think these negative feelings that come with trauma, especially when your life is all kinds of fucked up, it's the fear not that you can't, but that you could and won't be able to. You're afraid or you're hurt because you know inside the odds against you are overwhelming. But you feel that way because you still have odds. In other words, the game isn't over yet. And that's wonderful because it's not an inspiring feeling, it's a crushing feeling. It's a desolate feeling. Yet, your feeling that way means, on some level, you acknowledge the fact the game isn't over. The more you recognize the night is dark and getting darker, the more that affirms somewhere in you there is, or was, or could be light to compare against that darkness. If you know what dark is and you know it's getting darker, then there is a different state or a different possibility, even if you've never seen it, you know it's there, and there is a chance. And in terms of optimism, at least for me, that's one of the most palatable and affirming forms of optimism. Because if you aren't dead, or whatever the bad thing is, hasn't happened, then even if it's 1 in a billion, there is still a chance. You'll always have a chance until you're dead. And maybe on an unconscious level, I think that's normal to feel, but it's hard to articulate and easy to forget. That's a nice little line I wrote in my notes. Why does Halo feel hopeful in a world in which something like the Flood exists? Because it might be a certainty, but it's not done. There was no bell. And in this form of optimism, I think there are two ways to look at this. Either you didn't hear no bell and you could win, or you didn't hear no bell and you can go down fighting. Those are different routes, but they both speak to something important to me, which is dignity and nobility. And when you get a bunch of people around you who think this way and care about these things and feel this way, it's almost like you have a noble team. And Halo did account for this, right? You have it's really brilliant when you start to look at it as this realistic optimism thing, because you have Master Chief on one side, who is the had a chance and won. On that mythical level, I love the point that Chief's defining trait is this intangible luck. It's brilliant. He's the winning side. And then on the other side, you have Noble Team, you have Noble Six, the going down fighting form of optimism. That's sad, but it's still noble. Refusing to give up, not only in the face of overwhelming odds, but more refusing to give up on your hope. You don't need to see your hope realized for hope to mean something. Most times in your life, your hope won't be realized. The important thing is having it in the first place and refusing to give up on it. A denial of set in stone fate. And if you want to go back to the magic thing for a second, this is maybe the optimistic side of chaos magic, or the chaos outlook. It's the refusal to give up. It is the embracing of fighting until you can't fight anymore. And once again, I don't mean to the point the odds are so overwhelming it's ridiculous, but I mean until the odds stop or cease to be odds and it's just zero. Fighting until that point. And this all has been in a to the death sense, but what Halo does, which is beautiful, it's so honest, it takes hope all the way down to that level, down to losing, and helping you understand what hope is and why it matters, even if you can't realize it. And then it opens up. As in, okay, on the most honest level we can, this is the irreducible optimism. And now let's think about if you do get your chance. If you do get lucky. That's why Master Chief's... it's so important that Master Chief's defining trait is his luck. Taking that irreducible positive fact and expanding it with lucky roll after lucky roll. Noble Six is a representation of the life you'll probably end up leading, but a way to live it that means something, that holds on to that irreducibility. And then Master Chief is an elaboration on what could happen. Why do you choose to be Noble Six instead of rolling over and dying? Because, well, aside from the nobility of refusing to give up, the possibility you could see your faith in hope rewarded. Probably won't, but you could, and if you did get it, this is what it looks like. These are the heights you could rise to. All the positive aspects in life you are not guaranteed, and in fact are 99.999% not guaranteed, or guaranteed to have stepped all over, but are not totally ruled out. And I do believe fortune favors the bold for the most part. So you hold on to hope without expectation of reward or seeing it realized, no solution, no salvation. You do it because this is what you're here to do. And then maybe, in spite of everything, this is the happy, worthwhile life you could lead. These are the heights you could see. Probably impossible, but your existence is probably impossible. And I think there's something in human nature that is drawn to and could dedicate itself to the positive aspect of impossibility that you're already aligned with and is already aligned with you, because at this exact moment, your fate isn't set in stone. Now let's review, because in trying to make this last point, I think I lost it. Halo bypasses the cynicism blocks and censors because it is totally honest about what the terrible aspects of reality are. It does not diminish them in any way. In fact, it makes them seem strong. It makes everything very complicated, very ugly, very human. It's not lying to you or trying to convince you of anything about how evil can be defeated or any of this stuff. It's honest. But then it instills in you optimism by pointing at the fact you are alive right now, and the odds might be impossible, but they aren't zero. Your fate isn't done. It shows you that, it reminds you of that, and it's an optimism you can't argue with because it is factual. And how few forms of optimism are factual like that? And then it takes that honesty 2 steps further and says, even if you lose, probably you'll lose, maybe even certainly you'll lose, but right now you aren't dead, and holding on to that irreducible optimism is worthwhile because it is self-evident and on your side. It's worth fighting for until you can't. And then it shows you things you probably won't see, but could, because that irreducible optimistic seed could grow. It would take a series of miracles, but there can be series of miracles. And when you're faithful to hope, without the expectation of reward, you're faithful to hope because it's faithful to you, your odds of seeing your hope realized are better. Still probably impossible, but better, because you're in sync with it. And this is all why Halo Infinite's story didn't bug me as much as I thought it was going to when I got into it. And it still had kind of cringy moments here and there, whatever. It was still Halo optimism, stated differently. But it's I don't think there's been a moment in a mainline Halo game that didn't have that soul in it. And I'm sure maybe that's a mistake, accidental on the writers' parts. They don't even realize what they're doing. But maybe they do, and even if they don't, it doesn't change the fact Halo is optimism. And that's actually why this is a tangent. This video's already long, but this is a tangent. Why the Banished are interesting to me, and I fucking hope they do something with them. The Banished feel like a reaction to Halo's optimism, to the optimism Master Chief represents. And the parallels, do you think it's any mistake Atriox kept surviving? He keeps getting off. He keeps winning, maybe when he shouldn't, against all odds. I don't know if it's intentional. It feels like there is some resonance between those two. It's like they're the same soul, oriented in different ways. Most interesting because I think they are both based in hope, but Chief is the ideal, always lucky outcome, as in Chief is hope that pays off, and Atriox is hope that didn't give up, but didn't pay off the way it did for Chief. It's frustrating because between those two perspectives, I feel I land on Atriox's side, but that's because, for me, hope is something you need to fight for tooth and nail to the very bitter end. I mean, we talk about the New World Order pretty frequently on here. What do you think I really think there's something happening in people's souls. The banished, you don't think like the Brazilian jackals, the Canadian grunts, there's some parallel here, versus Chief's hope. Oh, maybe that's what it is. It's the words. They're both based in hope, but Chief is optimism and Atriox is pragmatism. They're both hope, but different forms of hope. Fascinating. That's the kind of complexity I'm looking for. It's not all about fucked up people doing fucked up things to one another in very complicated ways. Different spins on the same assumptions or feelings. I'm gonna say it now. Halo Infinite is a masterpiece. In 5 years, you're gonna get video essays on it. I just love the way Halo as a series affirms you in an honest way. You'll probably be a Noble 6. Maybe you'll develop enough to the point you can and need to become an Atriox, but you aspire to be Chief. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.